The Tennessee Titans need to bully the Atlanta Falcons at joint practices this week. Plus, the Titans made a move at backup quarterback. I'll break it all down on today's edition of Locked On Titans.
You are Locked On Titans, your daily Tennessee Titans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Titans podcast. I am your host, Tyler Rowland. Titans fans, on today's show, we're going to preview joint practices with the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to tell you what to look for on the offensive side of the ball with the offensive line, talk about how the defensive line should handle the offensive line of the Falcons. Plus, the Titans have made a backup quarterback move. I'm going to update you guys on all of that, and I got a little bit of a Rollins rant for you guys on Titans fans' expectations, and I think everyone needs a little bit of a reality check. Before we get into it, I do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. Remember, Monday through Friday, Tennessee Titans content all year round, always for free. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's your team every day. Speaking of every day, shout out to my everydayers out there tuning in Monday through Friday. Couldn't do it without you guys. If you aren't an everydayer, you need to be one. The Titans have joint practice against the Atlanta Falcons on Tuesday and on Wednesday. I'm going to be here to break down everything you need to know. I'm going to have a preview of Friday's game against the Atlanta Falcons, and then, of course, I'll be here live after the game against the Falcons to break down everything you need to know from that. Plus, I got a ton of film content up right now. I got a film breakdown on Cam Ward. I got a film breakdown on Femi Oladejo at the Tic Tac Titans YouTube channel. All of the content you could want for your favorite team right here with me, Locked On Titans. It's your team every day. With that being said, though, I think the Tennessee Titans need to try to physically beat the Atlanta Falcons, who are a faster, more athletic football team. I think the Titans' physicality needs to stand up most in this matchup, and that starts with Cam Ward's offensive line. The offensive line, I think, should have a very good set of practices against the Atlanta Falcons, and here's why. I'm not very high on the Atlanta Falcons defensive line. Number one, they have a ton of young players and a guy like Jalen Walker and a guy like James Pierce and a guy like Ruka Hororo. All right, they have a ton of young players on that defensive line that they are expecting to make big contributions. And even with there being young players, I just don't think there's a ton of talent here. Leonard Floyd is a good player, but he's not the player that he was a couple of years ago for the Los Angeles Rams. And Arnold Ebiketie is an okay player on the edge. Jalen Walker and James Pierce are both rookies who shouldn't be dominating the Titans' offensive line. On the inside, David Onyemata is a good player, sure, but they've lost a lot of stalwart guys that they've had on the interior for quite some time. You look at the linebacker group, Caden Ellis is an okay player, but Divine Diablo is just an okay player. Troy Anderson dealing with injury. They don't have a great defensive line linebacker combo, and that's why I think the Tennessee Titans offensive line, led by J.C. Latham, who I thought had a very good performance in the preseason, and I'm going to be doing a film breakdown on the Tennessee Titans offensive line coming up later this week, but J.C. Latham should dominate that matchup with all of those edge rushers. Leonard Floyd is the only one that I think should give J.C. Latham a ton of problems. Remember, the Atlanta Falcons have had a historically bad pass rush for a long time. For the last 20 years, for the last 10 years, for the last 5 years. Last year, the Atlanta Falcons had the least amount of sacks in the NFL. This is not a great defensive front. This is not a great defensive unit. And I think this Tennessee Titans improved offensive line should have a ton of success against the Atlanta Falcons defense. I do think the Tennessee Titans, especially in the run game, the Tennessee Titans run game wasn't as impressive against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers second string defense as I was hoping, but the Falcons, the Titans should be able to run the ball. They should be able to keep Cam Ward clean, and they should have a very good practice on offense in these 2 days. Now, the things that I do want to see, though, Cam Ward against Jesse Bates. Jesse Bates, one of the best safeties in the NFL, really good with turnovers. He's going to be really good at reading the young quarterback's eyes, making plays on the ball especially. Cam Ward likes to attack the middle of the field. That's where he likes to do his work. Well, Jesse Bates is going to be over the middle of the field, and I don't think that the Falcons have great linebackers. And linebackers seem to be who give Cam Ward trouble, at least the Titans linebackers in training camp. Maybe that's just a Cody Barton being smart thing. But if I'm not worried too much about the Falcons linebackers over the middle of the field, I am worried about Jesse Bates, who is a very, very good safety. And I think he could take advantage of Cam Ward in these practices if Cam Ward doesn't have a constant eye on Jesse Bates. But I want to see Cam Ward continue to get better as well. The first week, okay, no pads. Second week, struggles up and down. But Cam Ward starts to come out of it. He starts to improve. He starts to get better. And then we see him in these joint practice against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, making plays and making shots down the field. And the Titans playing pretty even with the Buccaneers in the joint practices. Well, now I want to see that continue to get better as you go to Atlanta. Atlanta doesn't have as good of a defense, doesn't have as good of a defensive system as they do in Tampa Bay. They have some good players, though. But Cam Ward should be even better. He should be even more comfortable. And Atlanta, again, doesn't have as good of a defensive front, so Cam's offensive line should perform better and give Cam more time to even be more comfortable. So I want to hear more from Cam Ward. And it's a 2-day practice against the Falcons. It was just 1 day previously against the Buccaneers. They're going to have 2 practices. So not only do I want to see Cam Ward come out there and have good practices, but I want to see him get even better in day 2 after he sees the Falcons the very first day. I have high expectations for what the offense should be able to accomplish. Now, I will say, Calvin Ridley against A.J. Terrell, that is going to be a tough matchup. A.J. Terrell is a really, really good cornerback for the Atlanta Falcons. I think it's going to be a tough matchup going against the Atlanta Falcons, who's Calvin Ridley's former team as well. You got to add that in. But either way, I think Calvin Ridley is a tough matchup, and that's going to mean that Cam Ward, with the additional time he has from the offensive line against not a great pass rush, should be able to find other weapons. I really want to see the rookie wide receivers continue to taking steps forward here. Alec Ioman or Chim Dike, who I think didn't get a good enough look with the quarterback situation. I want to see some of these young weapons continue to progress and maybe start to gain ground on a Tyler Lockett or a Van Jefferson. Again, A.J. Terrell, very good player. But outside of that, I'm not overly enamored with the Atlanta Falcons defense. Jesse Bates, A.J. Terrell, good players. There's nobody else out there other than maybe Leonard Floyd, who I'm really like, oh, that's a great defensive player. So I think the Tennessee Titans offense should have way more success than they've had against the Tennessee Titans defense in training camp so far, and then they had against Tampa Bay in the one joint practice that they had. Now, do want to capitalize and punctuate. Finally, I got there eventually, all right. Punctuate this opening segment, preview and joint practices on the offensive side of the ball with the quarterback update. The Titans made a move at backup quarterback, but it's probably not the move you're all hoping for. They waived Tim Boyle, so they got rid of Tim Boyle, and they brought in Trevor Siemian. Trevor Siemian's been with the Titans before. He was with the Broncos. I think he's been with the Bengals. He's been around the NFL. Trevor Siemian is not the answer to the backup quarterback. He's not the Jameis Winston trade a lot of you guys are hoping for, this and that. Trevor Siemian is just a better QB3 than Tim Boyle is. And what the Titans want is they want better quarterback play so that they can get a better look at the other players on offense, the wide receivers, the offensive line, the tight ends. So, listen, the Titans aren't going to have a massive upgrade at QB2, but they upgraded QB3, so you guys should all be happy with that. I will continue to say I don't think the Tennessee Titans need to upgrade backup quarterback. All they need to do is keep Brandon Allen in there, because if Cam Ward misses time, they don't want to win games. They should want to improve their draft pick because this team is still far away. And Brandon Allen is a great mentor for Cam Ward, whose only purpose is to develop and support Cam Ward. And I think that's important as well. Remember, Brandon Allen mentored Joe Burrow for the Cincinnati Bengals during the time that Brian Callahan was there. So it's obvious what Brandon Allen's job is, and it's not to be a good backup quarterback. It's to mentor and be a coach in the room for Cam Ward. So I don't even care about the backup quarterback situation at all like some of you guys do. That's not something that a team in this position should be worrying about. And I'll talk about what position I think the Tennessee Titans are in as a team and why a lot of you guys need a little bit of a reality check about where this team is. I'm going to get to that at the end of the show, but now I want to tell you why I think the Titans' defensive line should have a pretty good test against the Atlanta Falcons. Today's episode is brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of the year, folks. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. This year, I'm going to be playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. Yahoo Fantasy has been doing this for years, and they have perfected the fantasy football experience. Great draft day, great app, all of that. And to celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season right around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're into the classics, you could still play head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. Titans fans, let's continue today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast, previewing joint practices against the Atlanta Falcons. Again, the Tennessee Titans take on the Falcons in joint practices on Tuesday and on Wednesday. I'm going to be here after those practices to break down everything you need to know. Thursday, we'll have a game preview of Friday's matchup against the Falcons, preseason week number 2 for the Tennessee Titans. Before we continue looking at the defense, I do want to thank you again for making Locked On Titans your first listen each and every day. On the defense, I think this is going to be a great test for the Titans' defensive line, especially in the run game. Obviously, the pass rush for the Tennessee Titans, we're not very confident in, right? We're not very confident in the Titans' ability to rush the passer, so I'm not expecting the Titans to have some great week rushing the passer against a pretty good offensive line in the Atlanta Falcons. But I do want to see them do very well against the run. So the Falcons have athletic offensive linemen, is what I would say. They've consistently throughout the last couple of years ran zone-based run schemes. So a guy like Jake Matthews, a guy like Chris Lindstrom, a guy like Caleb McGarry, these are pretty good players. Even Matthew Bergeron at left guard. Ryan Newsel at center, not as high on that one, but overall, they have good athletic offensive linemen. And I think in the run game, the Tennessee Titans should be able to use their physicality, their size. This is why the Titans went out and got big edge rushers, right? So that they could bully people on the front lines and shut down the run game. And if they shut down the run game, then they can get teams into third and long situations. And if they get teams into third and long situations, then they can do those exotic things in the pass rush, like sending blitzes and sim pressures and stuff like that, which is going to help them deal with the lack of pure pass rush talent. You know, so it all kind of flows together, and it starts with stopping the run. Well, the Atlanta Falcons are a team that is good at running the football. With Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier, this is a team not only with a good offensive line, but really good backs that can run it. Okay, Tyler Algier runs with great power. Obviously, we know Bijan Robinson, one of the most complete, explosive running backs in the NFL. If the Titans get gashed in the run game in these joint practices, I'm going to be very disappointed in the defensive line, and I'm going to be very concerned, especially with Jeffrey Simmons didn't play in the preseason game. And the reason for that is because he needs to get reps in the joint practices when you're seeing more starters. You don't want to play your superstar player in Jeffrey Simmons? Cool, I get it. I disagree with it. I think Simmons should have played against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but nonetheless, he didn't. So he should be ready to get a lot of reps in joint practices. So I want to see Jeffrey Simmons dominate, and if the Titans' defensive line, and look, T'Vondre Sweat is supposed to be back this week as well. Will it be the first practice? Will it be the second practice? Will it be the joint practices at all? We can't know for certain, but he had tonsils removed, and he should be back this week, is what Brian Callahan said on Sunday in his press conference. Well, if Sweat is out there, and Simmons is out there, and SJD is out there, and Femi's out there, and Draymond's out there, that's the Titans starting 5 on the front in their 3-4 base defense against the run. So if the Falcons, who are a good run team, get shut down by the Titans defense in the run game, that's going to be very, very, encouraging is the word that I'll look for. Very, very encouraging for the defense. Now, I will say this is another, and we're going to say this every week, basically no matter who the Titans are playing, but this is going to be another very difficult test for the Titans secondary. Drake London, good player. Even, Ray McLeod, solid player. They added DJ Chark, solid player. Casey Washington has been doing a pretty good job in camp. Kaderil Hodge, another guy. Like, these aren't people who break the bank, but it's not a bad group of wide receivers. And you add in Kyle Pitts as well. You add in Bijan Robinson. Like, this is a pretty good group, even though Darnell Mooney is injured right now. This is a pretty good group of skill position players. And I think while it is a good group, it's not so great. It's not like Tampa Bay. Like, this isn't a Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver group. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receivers gave the Titans fits, not only in joint practices, but also in the preseason game as well. So I want to see how the Tennessee Titans secondary responds here, where it's not a absolutely awful group of weapons, but it's also not an elite tier group of weapons with Darnell Mooney not in the picture. If Darnell Mooney was playing, then we would have a different discussion. But as things stand, it's a pretty good group. It shouldn't be too overpowering for the Titans secondary, but also not a complete walkover where if the Titans secondary plays well, we have to disregard it because it's a terrible wide receiver group. So I don't want to say excited, because the reality is it probably won't go well for the Titans secondary, especially their young cornerbacks and everything. But that's really what I'm going to be looking for with a good weapons group from the Atlanta Falcons. I think the Falcons offense is a really good test for the Tennessee Titans defense. Now, to finish out our defensive section here, I did want to take a few moments and talk about Femi Oladejo, because a lot of you guys were freaking out about Femi. He's a bust. This was a mistake. It was this and that. And I've talked about how, philosophically speaking, that doesn't make any sense, because we know that Femi is a project player, and we knew that when he was drafted. So for people to flip on him just shows a lack of patience. But I put out my film breakdown on Femi Oladejo on the Tic Tac Titans YouTube channel, which you should go check that out immediately after this if you haven't seen it yet. But it's not even a philosophical thing. Femi Oladejo did not play bad. Femi did not play bad. I'm sorry. It's not true. It's not the case. I get it. It looked like it on the TV copy, but it's not the case. So there are bad plays. Femi didn't play great by any stretch of the imagination. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying Femi did not play as poorly as it may have seemed when you first watched it. So, a couple of different things. Number one, the bad plays. The bad plays that were perceived as bad plays. Femi Oladejo slanting inside, being pinned inside by the tight end, and people think he did a bad job. But as I showed in the film breakdown, the Titans were executing a squeeze and scrape technique where the defensive line pinches in and then the linebackers float outside to take anything that bounces out. And Femi did his job in those scenarios and did his job well and pinned in the offensive line, and it was the linebackers and the nickel backs and the outside cornerbacks who lost contain, not Femi Oladejo. So it's a lack of understanding of the technique that the Titans are using on defense that made people think that Femi played worse than what he actually played. Femi, again, wasn't perfect. His pass rush rep, there was only one true pass rush rep, and he was a little early to throw his move. It didn't work. The secondary move didn't work. It wasn't great, but we know that Femi Oladejo's most development is needed in his pass rush moves. We knew that, but against the run, Femi made multiple tackles. He showed great pursuit. He showed great explosiveness. One of the plays that I put out that was one of his best plays of the night, he literally shoots down the line of scrimmage, destroys the offensive tackle in a zone blocking scheme, then takes on the split flow tight end coming from the opposite direction and meets him halfway, disrupting him as well. So he disrupts the tackle, he disrupts the split flow backside block from the tight end, and he gets off the block of the tight end and makes the tackle on the opposite side of the formation of where he was. On the goal line, he got better during the game at stacking and shedding. If you've played football, then you know you want to get your hands inside the chest of the defender so that you have control. You keep your arms extended so that they can't get on your body. You read your keys, and once you see your play, you shed the block and make the play. He struggled with that once or twice on the first couple of drives, and by the time they got down to the goal line on the second drive, he was stacking the offensive tackle, shedding the offensive tackle, and making tackles on the goal line. So yes, the pass rush move looked underdeveloped, which is what we should have expected all along. And there were some plays where he wasn't able to stack and shed his assignment that weren't good plays. But the reality is most of the bad plays that people are pointing to say Femi wasn't good are the plays where he's squeezing down on the defensive line and the linebacker fails to scrape correctly, which I showed in my film breakdown. So it just shows that, like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I know and you don't, because there are people out there. I have a high school diploma in football, where there are people out there with doctorates and masters and, that are subject matter experts. And I understand that I'm not at the highest level, but at the same time, the level that I am at, I can see some of these technique things and recognize them and be able to explain that to people who maybe don't recognize that and just see Femi Oladejo slashing inside on the defensive line, losing contain and getting pinned in and being like, what's he doing? He's an idiot. But in reality, that's the design of the scheme of the defense. They wanted to squeeze the defensive line against the zone blocking scheme of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and allow their linebackers to roam free on the outside and make plays. So I'm just saying, sometimes it doesn't always look, or it isn't exactly how it looks when you're watching on TV. So don't freak out about Femi Oladejo. Go check out my film breakdown to learn even more about what I'm explaining right here on Femi on the Tic Tac Titans YouTube channel. But now I think Titans fans in general need a little bit of a reality check coming out of the first weekend of the preseason. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Look, August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. I could take a flyer on Cam Ward for MVP, or maybe the Titans to win the Super Bowl, or if you want, you're probably going to get pretty good odds on the Titans winning the division. Either way, make sure that you visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. It's FanDuel. Play your game. Titans fans, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On Titans podcast. We preview joint practices, looking at what I'm looking at for the offense and the defense. Again, I think the Titans should be able to out-physical the Atlanta Falcons this week during practices. But now, we just got to have a little bit of a reality check as a family, okay? I think all Titans fans need to hear what I'm about to say. Before I dive into it, though, I do want to thank you for making Locked On Titans your first listen. For your second listen, check out Locked On Bets. Betting experts Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers have daily MLB locks and can't miss football futures. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I told you where to make your bets on FanDuel. Now get your betting advice from Locked On Bets. But I got to tell you, I would not bet on the Tennessee Titans to win the division, okay? I would not bet on the Tennessee Titans to make the playoffs. And as I explained online at Tic Tac Titans on Twitter, I don't mean this to be overly pessimistic. I don't mean to be a wet blanket and rain on the parade and all of that. But I couldn't help it after watching the preseason game, seeing the reaction to the preseason game, watching the tape, watching the film multiple times, different players, offensive, defense. I've watched the tape multiple times now. And I couldn't help it, but I woke up on Monday morning and I thought to myself, this team isn't all that good, you know? And I think that all of these little subtopics that we're talking about, backup quarterback, they need to go trade for Jameis Winston. How do we only sign these bums? What do you mean they're just adding Trevor Siemian? What aren't we going to do something more? Femi was terrible. He's not ready to play. I see in the comments, they should have never drafted a project. Why would the Titans be taking project picks? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, the depth is so bad. The depth is so bad. And again, like all of these different things that everyone's freaking out about or upset about or whatever, they all come back to one answer. The team's not very good. And I know right now it sucks to hear that because optimism is as high as possible right now. Anticipation is as high as possible right now. Excitement is as high as possible right now. People are as hopeful that the Titans could be good as ever. They're excited for wins. And it's just, to me, everything that we talked about over the last 3 months about where this team is at, expectations, what a successful season would look like. I feel like, now there are some of you that never agreed to any of that. You never agreed that the Titans not making the playoffs would still be a good season. What are you talking about? But a lot of folks who I've had conversations with and a lot of people in my comments can see that the odds are that this team isn't going to make the playoffs. Now, could they surprise us? Could they shock the world? Could the Titans hit on a couple of things that don't look great right now and turn into the playoff team that we're all hoping for? Sure. But the odds are this team's going to win 5-6 games at best. The depth isn't very good because the starters aren't very good. A lot of the players that are younger are project players like a Femi, like a Kevin Winston who's being held out now, like a James Williams who may be in year 2 but is a developing player. The weapons on offense, we're all excited about the rookie wide receivers. We're so excited, but they're rookie wide receivers, and they're 4th-round picks. And outside of that, you got Van Jefferson and Tyler Lockett out there. Now Tajay Spears is banged up. Will Tony Pollard be able to handle the workload while Spears is banged up? Like, I just think a lot of the frustration from Titans fans right now, if you're frustrated with the team or what you saw, it's founded in unrealistic expectations. So I know right now is the time where Titans fans are most excited and most hopeful and most optimistic for the season. But the reality is this team is just not very good. The depth isn't there. They have really bad spots on the team. So I guess I know that that's wet blankety, and I know that that's raining on the parade, and that's not what everybody wants to hear right now. You want to hear how the team can make the playoffs, why we should be excited, and all that, and I get it. I do. I'm not trying to be overly pessimistic. I'm trying to be realistic. And looking at all the problems that the Titans have, and looking at the way that game went, and looking at some of the things that I don't think can be fixed right now, I'm not trying to be a pessimist. I'm just trying to set expectations properly because all of the freak out that I'm seeing over the weekend, I think is founded in unrealistic expectations for where this team is at. Because we're all high on the football. We're all excited. Football's back. The Titans are here. I want them to win games. But they have a really tough schedule to start the season. And I continue to say that a Carolina Panthers year would be good for the Titans this year. Carolina won 5 games, but Bryce Young looked really solid at the end of the year. And if the Titans have a tough start to the year and they finish strong with Cam Ward looking his best and they win 5 games and get a top 8, top 10 pick, that's probably a good outcome, and it's probably the most likely outcome as well. So again, I just woke up on Monday after watching tape on Sunday and seeing the conversations and, everything going through my mind. And I just want to make sure that you guys have your expectations in the right place because I think the reality about this team maybe isn't matching what the expectation is for this team from some fans right now. And that is only going to lead to disappointment. So just set your expectations low. Be ready for a year that they may not win a bunch of games, but we should see them improve. We should see Cam Ward improve. And let's hope that the Titans have a strong finish to the year with an easier schedule at the end that can get us excited about this team potentially and finally getting to a year in 2026 where I think we should have some expectation of playoffs. So with that in mind, that is going to do it for me today, folks. I'll be back tomorrow to break down everything you need to know from joint practices against the Atlanta Falcons. But as always, I am your host, Tyler Rowland, and this was Locked On Titans.